The first rule of surviving alone in the mountains is simple. Never open your door after dark. The second rule: never break the first rule. But on the coldest night of 1887, when frost painted my windows black and wolves sang their hunger to the moon, I heard it, a sound that would change everything. A child's cough, weak, desperate, dying. My hand touched the bolt. My sister's voice whispered in my memory, "Mercy, when you have nothing left to give. That's when giving matters most." I opened the door. This is a story about second chances, about 3 broken souls who found each other in a blizzard, about a woman who'd forgotten how to hope, a man who'd forgotten how to live, and a little girl who remembered how to love. This is the story of how strangers became family, and how one act of kindness in the frozen wilderness became a lifetime of warmth. This is the Winter Door. My name is Mercy Hartwell. 3 winters ago, I buried everyone I loved in the valley below. My sister Charlotte, her husband Thomas, their 3 children. Scarlet fever took them all within a week. I couldn't stay in Redemption Creek after that. Every corner held ghosts. Every Sunday service felt like drowning. So I took what little I had and moved up here, to this cabin my father built before the war. 10 miles from town, 15 from the nearest neighbor. Alone. Just how I needed it. The isolation was my medicine, my punishment, my peace. Until that November night. The knocking was weak, almost apologetic, like whoever stood outside expected no answer. Through the gap in my shutters, I saw them, a man, tall and broad-shouldered, holding a small figure wrapped in blankets. Snow had turned them both into ghosts. "Please," his voice cut through the wind. "My daughter, she's burning up." Every instinct screamed danger. A woman alone, miles from help, opening her door to a stranger. That's how cautionary tales begin. But that cough, Lord help me, that cough sounded exactly like my niece Rebecca's in her final hours. I threw open the door. The man stumbled inside, and I saw him clearly for the first time. Maybe 35, with eyes the color of storm clouds and exhaustion carved into every line of his face. But it was the child that grabbed my heart. A girl no older than 7, limp as a rag doll, skin hot enough to burn. "Set her by the fire," I commanded, already pulling out my basin, my cloths, the feverfew tea Charlotte had taught me to make. "What's her name?" "Lily." His voice cracked. "Her name is Lily." I worked through the night while the stranger, he said his name was Daniel, sat helpless, watching his daughter fight for breath. I'd done this before, watched Charlotte do it 100 times. Cool cloths for the fever, tea for the cough, prayer for everything else. "You know medicine," Daniel observed around midnight, his voice hoarse. "I know loss," I corrected. "Lost my whole family to fever 3 winters back. Watched my sister fight it with everything she had." I wrung out another cloth. "Didn't save them. Maybe I can save her." Something shifted in his expression, recognition of shared grief, maybe, or just desperate hope that I knew what I was doing. By dawn, Lily's fever broke. I woke to find Daniel feeding my fire with wood from my dwindling stack. He moved quietly, respectfully, like a man used to making himself useful without being asked. "Storm's worse," he said, not looking at me. "Can't travel. Not with Lily still weak." I peered through my window. He was right. The world had vanished into white nothing. Even the old pine I used for navigation was gone. My heart sank. 1 night of charity I could manage. But 2 nights? 3? My supplies were stretched thin as it was. Winter had come early and hard. "I'll hunt," Daniel said, reading my silence. Earn our keep. In that, I gestured at the blizzard. I've hunted in worse. He was already reaching for his coat, checking a rifle that looked well used but well maintained. You have trap lines? Creek bed, but they won't have caught anything in this weather. Then I'll track. He looked at me directly for the first time. Lily stays with you? It was a question dressed as a statement, asking permission without demanding. I nodded. She's too weak to travel anyway. He knelt beside his daughter, kissed her forehead with such gentleness it hurt to watch. Be good for Miss Mercy, he murmured. You'll come back? Lily's voice was small, frightened. Always. He said it like an oath sworn on something sacred. Then he was gone, swallowed by white. Lily was a quiet child. She sat on my bed, watching me with eyes too old for her face, and I tried to remember how to talk to children. It had been so long since Rebecca and the boys had visited. You know how to sew? I asked finally, desperate to fill the silence. Her face lit up like sunrise. Mama taught me, before she... The light dimmed. Before she went to heaven. My hands stilled on the mending in my lap. How long? 2 years. Papa's been sad ever since. She picked at the blanket. He doesn't talk about her anymore. Does that mean he's forgetting? Oh, child. My throat tightened. No, sweetheart. Sometimes people go quiet because they remember too much. The silence isn't forgetting. It's the only way they can carry the weight. Lily nodded like she understood things no 7-year-old should have to understand. We sewed together in comfortable quiet, needles flashing in firelight. Her stitches were careful and precise. Her mother had taught her well. Daniel returned at dusk with 2 rabbits and ice in his beard. He was shaking so violently he could barely stand. Foolish man, I muttered, already heating stones to wrap in blankets. You'll catch your end proving you're useful. Can't take without giving. His words came through blue lips. Not from someone who's already given everything. Something cracked open in my chest. I'd been alone so long, I'd forgotten what it felt like when someone truly saw you. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Daniel and I sat by the fire. Really talked for the first time. You haven't asked my name, he said, my full name. Figured you'd tell me when you were ready. Daniel Thornton. He paused, watching for recognition. The name meant nothing to me. Should it? I have land, he continued. A ranch. Quite a large one, actually. Cattle, horses, a house big enough that footsteps echo. His voice was hollow. Everything except what matters. I sat across from him, studying his face in the firelight. Money doesn't cure loneliness. No. He looked at his sleeping daughter. But it doesn't buy what she needs either. A mother's love. A home that feels safe. Normal childhood things. She has you, I said quietly. That's not nothing. I'm half a father on my best days. His hands clenched. She deserves better. She deserves you whole, I countered. That's different than perfect. His eyes found mine across the flames. For a long moment, something unspoken moved between us. Recognition. Understanding. The kind that only comes from walking the same dark road. Why are you out here alone? He asked. I told him. About Charlotte. About the fever. About how I couldn't stay in town where everything reminded me of everyone I'd lost. Came here to rebuild or die trying. Which one's winning? I smiled, brittle as January ice. Ask me tomorrow. The fire burned low. Neither of us moved to add wood. Sometimes darkness feels safer than light that shows too much truth. One more day, Daniel said. Storm should break by then. I nodded, ignoring the strange ache in my chest. One more day. Then I'd be alone again. Just like I'd learned to prefer it. Right? Morning brought silence. The storm had passed, leaving the world buried and sparkling under hard sun. I woke to find Daniel already outside, clearing snow from my porch with my old shovel. Lily helped, her small hands red with cold, laughing as she threw snowballs at the trees. "You don't have to do that," I called. "I know." He didn't stop. "But your roof has a weak spot near the chimney. Snow this heavy will cave it in." I climbed up to look. He was right. I'd been meaning to fix it before winter, but lumber was expensive and my hands weren't as strong as they used to be. "I can patch it," Daniel said, "if you have spare wood." "I don't." "Then I'll ride to town. There's one about 15 miles south, isn't there?" I stared. "In this snow? On foot?" "Found our horses this morning. They'd sheltered in a canyon." He smiled slightly. "Stubborn animals, like their owner." The horses were magnificent, sleek, well-bred, worth more than my entire cabin, probably. Daniel saddled the larger one with practiced ease. "I'll be back before dark," he said. "You don't owe me this." "I know exactly what I owe." His voice was firm. "And it's more than a patched roof, Mercy." My name in his mouth felt like a promise. I watched him ride south until he vanished into white distance. "Papa likes you," Lily said simply, appearing at my elbow. "He's just being kind." "No." She shook her head with absolute certainty. "He smiles different when you talk, like he used to with Mama. Not sad smiling, real smiling." My heart stuttered. "Sweet girl, your papa and I just met. We're strangers helping each other through a storm. Mama always said God sends the right people when you stop looking." Lily's voice was utterly certain. "Papa stopped looking. Then we found you." I had no answer for that kind of faith. That night, Daniel returned with lumber, nails, and food enough to last weeks. "Daniel, I can't. Let me do this," he interrupted quietly. "Please." So I did. 3 days became a week. Daniel fixed the roof, then the sagging porch rail, then the door that stuck in its frame. He worked from dawn to dusk, and I stopped pretending I wanted him to leave. Lily bloomed like spring flowers. She taught me songs her mother had sung, learned to braid my hair with clumsy, earnest fingers, helped me cook and clean and fill the cabin with laughter for the first time in 3 years. Evenings, after Lily slept, Daniel and I sat by the fire and traded pieces of ourselves. He told me about his ranch, the Thornton Valley spread. Thousands of acres, dozen hands, herds that stretched to the horizon, how he'd built it from nothing with his late wife, Elizabeth. I told him about Charlotte, about the sister who'd been my best friend, about the niece and nephews I still dreamed about some nights. "I should go back," Daniel said one evening. "My foreman's capable, but there are decisions only I can make. The ranch won't run itself forever." "Then go." I kept my voice steady. "Come with us." The words hung in the warm air between us. My heart hammered so loud I was certain he could hear it. "Daniel, I'm not proposing marriage," he said quickly, leaning forward. "Not yet. But come to the ranch. See if Lily's right. See if this is more than just kindness between strangers. I have nothing to offer you." I gestured at my threadbare dress, my calloused hands. "I'm not the kind of woman who fits in a rancher's world, especially not one like yours. You're exactly the kind of woman who fits." His voice was rough with emotion. "Strong, honest, good, real. You barely know me." I know you gave everything you had to strangers in a storm." He reached across the space between us, not quite touching. "I know my daughter smiles again. I know I feel human for the first time since Elizabeth died." He paused, his eyes holding mine. "I know I'm half in love with you, Mercy, and I don't want to walk away without finding out what whole feels like." The Thornton Valley Ranch took my breath away. Rolling hills stretched endlessly under endless sky. Cattle dotted the landscape like slow-moving clouds. The main house rose from the prairie like a promise. 2 stories of whitewashed wood and glass windows that caught the light like diamonds. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Ranch hands tipped their hats as Daniel rode in with me beside him in the wagon, and Lily chattering between us. But I saw the whispers, felt the stares. "Who's that?" I heard someone mutter near the stables. "Some woman he found in the wilderness," I heard. "Poor thing probably thinks she's caught herself a rich man." My spine stiffened. I'd survived 3 winters alone. I could survive gossip. Daniel introduced me to his foreman, a weathered man named Dutch who looked me over with sharp, assessing eyes. "Ma'am," he said, respectful but reserved. "I can work," I said firmly. "Don't expect charity." Dutch's expression shifted, surprised, then approving. "Kitchen needs help. Cook's been complaining for months about being short-handed. I'll start tomorrow." That night, Daniel showed me to a guest room. Tasteful, spacious, nothing like the luxury I'd imagined, but still more than I'd had in years. "Take your time," he said gently. "No pressure, no expectations." But Lily had other ideas. She appeared at my door in her nightgown, clutching a worn cloth doll. "Will you tuck me in, like you did at the cabin?" My throat tightened. "Sweetheart, you have your own room here. Your papa can—" "Please." I followed her to a bedroom decorated in soft yellows and whites. Clearly untouched since her mother died. Lily climbed into bed, then patted the space beside her. "Mama used to lie here and tell stories," she said softly. I hesitated. This felt sacred, intimate, like crossing a threshold I couldn't uncross. "Please, Miss Mercy." So I lay down and told her a story, about a brave girl who befriended mountain lions, about a father who learned to laugh again, about a woman who'd forgotten she was strong until she had to be. Lily fell asleep mid-tale, her small hand wrapped around mine. Daniel found us there an hour later. His expression was unreadable in the lamplight, grief and hope and something fiercer, more fragile. "Thank you," he whispered. I carefully extracted myself and followed him to the hallway. "She's trying to fill a mother-shaped hole with me," I said quietly. "What happens when she realizes I'm not Elizabeth, that I can never be?" "She knows that." Daniel's voice was gentle. "She's choosing you anyway. The question is whether you're brave enough to let her." I thought of my cabin, my solitude, my careful survival. Then I thought of Lily's laughter, Daniel's hands building, the warmth of being chosen. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "Good," he smiled. "That means it matters." He kissed my forehead, chaste, tender, and left me standing in the hallway of a house that might become home. 2 months passed like a dream. I worked in the kitchen, earning respect with my bread and steady hands. Lily followed me everywhere, chattering about school and horses and the kittens the barn cat had. Daniel courted me properly. Slow rides at sunset, careful conversations. His hand at my waist during ranch dances, but the whispers followed me like shadows. "Gold digger thinks she can replace a real lady." Poor Daniel, taken in by a pretty face and a hard luck story. She doesn't even know which fork to use at dinner. I ignored them. Mostly. Until the day I overheard the banker's wife in town. A man of means like Daniel Thornton could have anyone, the woman sneered to her friend. Instead, he's playing house with some wilderness beggar. It's absolutely embarrassing. My hands shook as I loaded my wagon. I'd survived wolves and winter and grief. Why did cruel words cut deeper? That night, Daniel found me on the porch, staring at stars. "What happened?" he asked. "Nothing." My voice was hollow. "Just remembered what I am, what I'll always be to them." "And what's that?" "Not enough." The words tasted like ash. Not refined enough, not educated enough, not... Mercy. Stop. He turned me to face him. "I don't give a single thought to what they think." "But I do." My voice cracked. "Lily deserves a mother who fits into this world. You deserve a wife who knows how to host dinner parties and make polite conversation, and I deserve a woman who'd give strangers her last meal in a storm." Daniel interrupted firmly. "Lily deserves someone who loves her without conditions. We both deserve you, Mercy, exactly as you are. You don't understand. I understand I'm in love with you." The words were raw, honest. "I understand my daughter calls you Mama when she thinks I'm not listening. I understand I wake up grateful you're here and terrified you'll leave." He cupped my face gently. "I understand that if you walk away, it won't be because you're not enough. It'll be because you don't believe you are." My eyes burned with unshed tears. "What if I fail you? What if I'm not what you need?" "What if you don't fail?" His thumb brushed my cheek. "What if we build something good together? What if love is actually enough?" "Is it?" I whispered. "Is love ever really enough?" "Only one way to find out." He kissed me then, soft, seeking. A question my heart answered before my head could object. When we broke apart, Lily was watching from the window, grinning like she'd orchestrated the whole thing. Maybe she had. Spring came early that year. The wedding was small, just ranch hands, Dutch, and Lily in a white dress that made her glow like morning light. The preacher spoke of new beginnings and second chances while I gripped Daniel's hands and tried to believe this was real, that I was allowed this much happiness after so much loss. "I do," Daniel said, his voice steady and sure. "I do," I echoed, and meant it with my whole battered heart. Lily threw wildflowers, laughing as petals caught in my hair. The hands cheered. Dutch nodded his approval, and Daniel kissed his bride like she was air and he'd been drowning. That night, we stood on the porch of our home, no longer his but ours, watching the land stretch endlessly under stars. "Thank you," I said softly. "For what? Getting lost near your cabin?" I leaned into his warmth. "For giving me a reason to open the door." Daniel wrapped his arms around me. "Thank you for being brave enough to let strangers in." Lily emerged in her nightgown, rubbing sleepy eyes. "Can I sleep with you tonight? Like we used to at the cabin?" Daniel and I exchanged glances, newlyweds with a chaperone, unconventional but perfect. "Always," I said, lifting her into my arms. We went inside together, a family built from broken pieces and wild grace. Behind us, the door closed on winter's loneliness. Ahead, firelight flickered warm and gold, a beacon promising that even in the hardest seasons, kindness could kindle hope. I learned something in those mountains that winter. Sometimes salvation comes disguised as strangers in a storm. Sometimes love arrives precisely when you've stopped looking for it, carried on wolf song and prayer and a child's cough in the darkness. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply open the door. The first rule of surviving alone is never open your door after dark. But here's what I learned. Some rules are meant to be broken. 'Cause on the other side of that door might be everything you didn't know you needed. Everything you thought you'd lost forever. Everything that will teach you how to live again. Daniel taught me that strength doesn't mean standing alone. Lily taught me that love doesn't replace what you've lost. It adds to what you have. And together, they taught me that home isn't a place. It's the people who choose you, and the ones you're brave enough to choose back. Outside, spring wind whispered through the pines. Inside, 3 hearts beat steady as the land itself, strong as the promise we'd made to build, to heal, to choose each other every single day. The wolves were distant now. The cold had passed, and in the morning, we'd wake to a world made new.